No.
All right, let's see, everybody's here.
Do you want me to do, let's see what we got. I'll just do capital planning here. Okay.
Anything on climate smart, or should we skip that one?
I could just say
Yeah.
about the money. that
Okay,
you see.
good, okay. All set?
Also,
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. It's the regular meeting of the Village of Tuxedo Park Board of Trustees. The date is Wednesday, December 18th. It's just after 7 p.m. Would you call the roll, please,
Sure.
Madam Clerk?
Mayor Citrin,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lindsay,
Present.
Trustee Brooke,
present.
Trustee Shara,
Present via Zoom.
thank you, and Trustee Turner, we will note for the record, is absent.
Yes, Trustee Turner suffered a death in his family yesterday, so he was intending to be here, but unfortunately, those obligations take preference. So he sends his regrets, and on behalf of the Village of Tuxedo Park, the Board of Trustees, and all residents and everyone in attendance, we send him and his family our deepest sympathies and condolences. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, in terms of my mayor's comments, they'll be rather short. We had the Verizon balloon test last Friday. For those who were able to see the balloon, it was in and out because of the wind. It wasn't the most effective test, but I just want everyone to know that now that we've completed the leaves off test, in January, we'll reconvene to discuss the procedures we'll be moving forward on, how we're going to handle the issue of the cell tower. So if anybody here wishes to make a public statement with respect to the cell tower, they're more than welcome, but there will be no board discussion this month. We will resume the discussion at the January meeting, and we'll take it from there. So the other thing I wanted to say was it's the 18th of December, and very soon everyone will be getting their town tax bills. And the only thing I can say at this point is ouch. It's a substantial tax increase. I want you to know that the budget of the town is available on the town website if you wish to examine it yourself and reach your own conclusions about how it is that the town increased taxes to the village residents of about 7.5%. So if anybody is interested, the budget for 24 and 23 and 25 are all there for comparison purposes. And I suggest if you have the opportunity, check it out at tuxedo.gov, tuxedonewyork.gov, and you can reach your own conclusions. I just want to point out that we, as the village board, have no say in how the town reaches its budget, how they determine how to spend money. We have our own budget. We have a different budget year. We will begin budget discussions in February and have a budget ready for our budget year, which begins on June 1st. The town starts its budget year on January 1st. With that being said, I wish everybody a healthy and happy holiday season, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And once this meeting is done, we'll see you all in 2025. Any comments, Deputy Mayor Lindsay?
No.
Any comments, Trustee Brooke?
I'd like to, at some point, raise the issue that, sunset is now at 4:30 in the afternoon. The club raised the issue about lighting on the padel courts, and people can't seem to make decisions. So my sense is if a decision cannot be made, the process should one that comes before the trustees. And speaking to council, Jared, I'd like to know what that process is, because with sunset at 4:30 in the afternoon, this is not keeping lights on late just for the padel course. It's just misuse of community resources and failure to make decisions.
Are you directing that to Jared?
Yeah, I'd like Jared's input about if the appropriate authority, and I'm still not sure whether it's the zoning board or the architectural review board, can I make a decision? What is the process by which the decision goes to the Board of Trustees?
Well, let's ask John first. Has the club submitted an application with respect to the issues involving the Padel courts?
They have.
And is the application pending first before the bar or before the BZA?
It went before the bar for aesthetic issues, but the bar cannot go any further as it requires a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The application is currently before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Has the application been scheduled for a hearing for the BZA?
Not at this time.
Is that decision as to when it is scheduled up to the chair and the members of the BZA?
It is.
Okay, all right. That's all. That's my input in terms of background information. Jared, do you have anything to add to that?
No, and to the extent that you're asking a legal question, I suggest that we discuss that in executive session or separately using attorney-client communication.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
great.
All right, thank you. Trustee Scherer, any comments before we begin the meeting?
No, I do support Paul's point though, which is, decisions should be made. There's no reason to not make decisions. So hopefully that process can be expedited.
Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to reports. The court report is attached, and the first in-person report will be from our police chief, Alan Faust.
What about public comments?
Oh, my mistake. I'm absolutely sorry. I apologize. Eventually, maybe by the end of 2 years, I'll get it right. Do we have public comment here in the audience? Yes, Professor Hayes.
I would like to ask a question. For several years, the village has put in the budget something like $20,000 to track where the stormwater drains are, where they take water in and where they outlet it to the lakes. And this is an important thing. We don't know, we haven't, in the past anyway, known how this system works. Or if there are substantial amounts of pollutants coming through the stormwater, which is a possibility. So I was just wondering how that work was coming.
Excellent question. John, do you have an answer to that question? Or possibly Jeff? Stormwater management.
Nothing substantial has been done yet. More guidance is going to be needed on how it's to be done. And, the fact that we don't have the staffing to be able to conduct it on a continuing basis.
Would this involve testing of the waters? Is that essentially what it is, or is it measuring the flow? Trustee Scherer, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, no, there's been a fair amount of discussion about this, and I think it kind of goes to an old African proverb, which I'll probably screw up, but the way you eat a elephant is one small bite at a time. It's a huge project, and it's such a daunting project that I think what happens is, as you just heard, people don't really know where to start. But it really is measuring the flow, because the issue is we don't know where within the watershed where the water is getting into the pipes and where it's coming from and where it's going into the lake. It seems to me, and I know some of it's been done, John can talk to this better than I can, but I really think I hate to create another committee. We have talked about this on the infrastructure committee. It may require getting a third party, some third party resources, but you know, I sense some weariness in Jim's voice, which is warranted, which is, you know, this is something he brings up every year, and we never make progress on it. So I do think it's something that just requires focus. And, you know, if Jeff doesn't have sufficient resources, then, you know, we need to, you know, bring in a third party and just take it. This is a longer term project. It's not going to be done in a month. It's probably not going to be done in a year. It may be a 5-year project. I don't know. It just requires focus.
Well, I mean, there's money in the budget and
Yep.
prior to this, back, not in this administration, but in the prior administration, a plan was put forth by the village engineer on how to do this. And they would, you know, they would mark the places where the water was coming in and where the water was going out. And that would be involved in, I guess, sluicing the water through the pipes.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean by, I'm not sure how we're going to accomplish it.
Well, that's what I think that's where the engineer comes in, because I think they have done this for other communities, and so they can come in and make a plan.
Yeah, I mean, if they've done this in the past, they should come here spend a couple days here and, you know, again, I think Trustee Chair is correct, that we may have to involve a third party, somebody that does, you know, a company that may do this as a business.
Well, we just received.
I mean, it really is part of the long range capital committee. It's all about understanding. It's part of understanding what are the assets we have in place. And this is an asset that we have in place that we just don't have good information about. And so I do think it falls under the, you know, the committee that's chaired by Joanne Hanson. And we have talked about it, but it hasn't been a focus. And so I don't know that we need to waste everyone's time here. Let Michelle and I take it back and make it a focus. Jim, you're right. There has been work that's been done on the past that we can use. But I think what I would suggest, Mayor, is Jim asked a valid question. Why don't we just put on the agenda for the next meeting, a status update, and hopefully by then we have, you know, we've at least laid out a plan for how we're going to tackle this issue.
Sure. Well, by happenstance, the 2025 contract with Weston and Sampson came in today. So we'll have to review that and see how we could coordinate that in terms of their tasks with this particular project.
Just one other thing, Josh, didn't our lake manager say that their company could do this?
Yeah, and we should talk to AJ about it, but candidly,
That is another option.
I mean, yeah, we're still waiting for the you know, a proposal on you know, the aerator in the lakes. So as you know, that company's been stretched as well. But let us come back to the board. Michelle and I will take this to the long range capital committee and let us come back with an action plan.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Chair. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anybody else in the room have any public comment at this point? Okay, on Zoom, Mr. McFadden, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. How's everyone tonight? Thank you, Mayor and Trustees, for your dedication and service to the village. I'm David McFadden, reside at 28 Pepperidge Road, Tuxedo Park. I appreciate the opportunity to ask the following questions. Would you mind lighting the holiday lights tomorrow? I'm referring to the trees along Tuxedo Road, immediately before and after the front gate. The lights are always there. and it's just a matter of having the DPW plug them in. Number two, on tonight's agenda, under new business, there's a proposal to amend the FOIL policy regarding employee disciplinary records. Could you please explain the current policy and the reasons for proposing this change? And finally, ahead of the upcoming public hearing on the proposed reduction of the speed limit, will the village provide residents with empirical data supporting the decision? Specifically, will data on speeding incidents, locations where speeding tickets are issued, and locations of past vehicle-related accidents be made available? Thank you for your time and attention to these matters.
Okay, we'll take them one question at a time. Deputy Mayor, you have any information on the lights?
Yes, Jeff Voss and I have been speaking about the lights and they are on today, as of when I came through the gate today.
Fantastic.
Okay. Number three, the issue of the traffic reduction of speed limit in the public hearing, which will be scheduled hopefully after a vote of the board for January. A traffic study was conducted. That traffic study was made available to the public as part of the attachments to the agenda last month. It's a rather comprehensive study. And what I would ask you to do, Mr. McFadden, is take a look at that study if you haven't seen it. And if you have any follow-up questions, please bring them up at the public hearing in January.
Will do.
Okay. And the second item, the one in the middle, I'm not quite sure what that was. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Foil.
Oh, FOIL.
Yeah, what's the current policy and why do you propose changing it?
Okay, Elizabeth, are you able to answer that question? This was a directive that you may have received.
Yes, I'm only able to answer it somewhat. We are required to adopt this new employee-related information under FOIL, this policy regarding that.
Yeah,
And
I
think
that's right. That's right. Elizabeth's right. There's been a change in state law that now requires the disclosure of that information and notice be given to the affected employee before that information is disclosed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jared. Anyone else on Zoom wish to make a comment? Matt, would you like to speak?
Just one question. Did I hear the cell tower will be on the January?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You're free to make a comment about what you observed at the balloon test, but we'll have a full and frank discussion in January.
I agree with your evaluation of it, but we'll, I'll reserve the proper comments.
Okay. All right. Anyone else again on Zoom have any comments to make? And now we can move on to reports.
can I just make a quick comment? Is that okay?
Yes, of course, Elizabeth.
So, last month, Hugh Carroll had requested permission to conduct the 2024 bird count, Christmas bird count. And I just wanted to let everybody know that that did take place on December 14th. They have 56 species listed. 32 of them were found in Tuxedo Park and 6 were only found in Tuxedo Park. So he thanked us again for letting us come in. He said this location is extremely important to them. And he also made a point of thanking Police Officer Jessica Wigfall for being so warm and welcoming when they arrived at the gate.
One question, Elizabeth, is that report going to be reduced to writing and available for the public?
It is posted on the website.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Now we'll move on to the reports. Again, I'm Chief Faust. You're up.
All right, good evening. The police department responded to 121 calls for the month, 3 criminal cases, 9 fire alarms, 8 warnings. They had 2 medical calls sent to the town police. They patrolled 2,651 miles and had approximately 798 cars per day. Also, I'm sure as everybody's aware, that's become the big thing are the drones, which it hasn't seemed to be too bad over here, but more on the other side of Warwick, Goshen, I've been in numerous calls on them. So the County Emergency Services Center just requests that only an emergency case you would call 911 on that. And for all non-emergencies, please call our local police department so we can do a blotter on it. And also the New York State Police crime tip at troopers.ny.gov or the FBI tip line you can call, or tips.fbi.gov. They request that all incidents are reported. Lastly, we know the holiday seasons are increase in, fatal and motor vehicle accidents, due to, alcohol and drugs. So, Anheuser-Busch and Dana Distributors, has a Safe Ride program where you can, they give free rides, for the holidays, Uber, Lyft, and, local cab companies, the Alert Cab program, which you can go on their website, and it's, in the Orange, Rockland, and, Westchester, and Putnam County, they expanded it to. So if you need a, free ride home, they take care of that for you during the holidays.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Any questions for the chief from the board members?
No.
Nothing? Okay, thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, Jeff for the DPW.
The first thing I'd like to discuss is, we have 2 employee vacancies at the DPW. And I just want to let the board know that I have 2 candidates in mind to fill those positions. I will be interviewing them within, over the next week and a half. And then if any of the board members, if I decide I'd like to hire them, would like to meet them, you'll have that opportunity.
Great, thank you. And we appreciate the years of service of Dan Hagland, who's retired. And we also appreciate the services of Dominic Posta, all he's done, and we're sorry to see him go. I understand he's taking a position with the town highway department.
Okay, so for the DPW, we've been, finished picking up leaves for the year. Worked on trucks and salt spreaders. Clean drain and catch basin with the rains that we've had recently. Plowed and salted roads after the couple of little snowstorms we had. We rebuilt a catch basin on Tuxedo Road by the Big Triangle. We opened the valve for Weewa Dam to lower it for the winter level. We picked up fallen trees on Ridge Road, Summit Road, Turtle Mountain Road, and Acoma Road. Salted icy areas throughout the village after the rains. Steam clean boat trailers. Water and sewer did various markouts, utility markouts. Received new media for the filter at the water plant and installed that and the new screens. Removed seasonal water meters. Worked on a lead line survey that's requested by the health department. A letter went out a couple of weeks ago regarding that. Serviced our air compressor at the water plant. We replaced a chlorine injection line at the water plant. Started fourth quarter water meter readings. Obtained various meter readings requested by Denise. We also worked with Weston and Sampson. We drained the clear well tanks at the water plant so they can inspect inside for some work that needs to be done, baffles that need to be put in. So we completed that. We also turned on water service to the Prana project. I guess they're doing stuck on the outside of a new construction, so they needed water turned on, so. And that's about it.
I want to thank you, Jeff, for providing the board with your weekly reports. I hope that it's informative to the trustees. They can see that the DPW is hard at work. And I know being short 2 crew members is difficult, so hopefully the 2 people you intend to interview will satisfy your needs. And then, of course, we as board members can meet with them just to sign off on them. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Water Department report is attached to the record. The treasurer's report is attached to the record. Since the treasurer is here on Zoom, any comments you wish to make, Elizabeth, about the treasurer's report?
No, not actually. Everything was pretty much normal. I mean, I'll usually mention it if there's an anomaly, but there's nothing really of note to mention.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Climate Smart Update, Deputy Mayor Lindsay.
As you know, we put all the work in and were designated as a clean energy community by NYSERDA. And for all that work, we received $25,000 to further our clean energy upgrades. And we will be using that money towards installation of heat pumps in the village office when we do some remodeling of the filing room.
Thank you. Now the next item is actually a major item. It's the Capital Planning Committee report. I again turn to the deputy mayor. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. So, well, Josh, as you know, and I are on the capital planning committee, and Tom Birmingham, who is here tonight, also is on that committee, as well as Gardner Hempel and our chair, Joanne Hanson. So Tom and I have been meeting with our bond advisor, Noah Nadelson from Unistat, and with Joe Zongol, our engineer, to try and divide up the projects into, basically the categories of general repairs, sewer repairs, and water repairs. And what I'd like to do now is, I did send this summary to the board. So before Tom and I meet again with Noah to try and figure out a bond schedule, I would like to get feedback from the board as to what they feel about the categories I put together and the amounts that Joe Zongol gave us to work with for the bonds. So basically what we'll do is issue bond anticipation notes. We'll start in the spring. And those won't be, the interest won't be payable until the next fiscal year, so we don't have to worry about the fact that we haven't budgeted for the debt service. And then each year, we will see if we can pay down that ban and then issue a new one for additional projects. So we want to stretch the projects out by issuing bans each year until we can do that for up to 5 years, but we anticipate renewing these bans for maybe 3 or 4 years, and then we'll be at a point where we can bond them out for 20 or 30 years, depending on the type of project it is. So in January, before we vote on the bond resolution at the regular meeting, what we'll do is we'll have a public meeting to explain all the projects and the amounts and how we're going to fund them. But the general fund projects were, I can go through them.
That would be great, just for
Okay.
informational purposes, yeah.
All right.
You don't have to
So-
go into great detail.
No, I'll
but so
just-
People get a sense of what we're looking at. in terms of
Sure. So,
project.
so general fund projects that will be bonded out are the the Pond 3 bridge replacement and repairs to that dam, and the Summit Road retaining wall that needs to be replaced. So those are the general fund projects that would be bonded out. So the total is 540,000, and we would issue 370,000 in bans in the spring, and then the balance in the next fiscal year. Sewer projects required by the DEC. So these will all be bonded out. They total 630,000, and we would issue that ban this coming spring. The water projects. Now there's 3 main projects that we would bond out. And one is the Tuxedo Lake water main, which Joe Zongol estimates was installed maybe around 1933, but there's no really good record. So it's almost 100 years old at best. And
This is the line that runs underneath
under
Tuxedo
the
Lake.
it runs from the water treatment plant straight across to where Turtle Point Road and Westlake Road meet.
And it provides water to the entire
Yeah.
west side of the lake.
Yeah, the whole west side of the lake, the school, all the houses.
Mhm.
There are a few people that do have wells, but anybody who's on the water system. So the whole western side is served by that water main. And so we have some designs for metering and also some estimates for how to install that pipe. It would need to be completed by November, obviously, in case the lake freezes over. So we would like to try and get that started as quickly as possible in the springtime. The other two major projects for the water is the East Village water main, and the main area that needs to be repaired starts on our side of Route 17. And Jeff could probably explain a little bit more. We're thinking of doing that first bit in the first phase from our side of Route 17 to Powerhouse Lane, you know, that, and then in the future years go from there under the Ramapo River and into the East Village. And then the third one is Mountain Road, which is in the town. And we would like to maybe push that out a little bit because it's not as dire as some of these other projects are. So Jeff, while you're here, that first phase of the East Village water main, that makes sense to you to start it on our side of 17? And
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So those are the projects. Does anybody have any questions before I go into
Yeah, the first
financing?
project was indebtedness of 540K. The second was 630K.
Oh, you want,
And what
okay.
was the aggregate for the three water projects?
Okay, so the Tuxedo Lake water main is around $1 million. The East Village water main, and I believe this is phase one, is $1,060,000. The total project for the East Village water main is 1.7 million. And the Mountain Road water main project is 1.6, but that we would do in phases starting in maybe 2 years.
And what is the history of indebtedness? I know we floated bonds some time ago.
Right now.
Assume they've been paid off.
No. I have that with me. Right now, we have 7.3 million in outstanding bonds. Our debt service is approximately 600,000 a year. That's general water and sewer combined, and installment debt for vehicles.
So the 7.3 would jump to
There
closer
are
to 9.
Yeah, there are some that will be. I don't have it with me. Ah, here it is. I knew I had it. Okay, I will, I can get you this. There's 1.5 million bonds that covered roads, the sewer system, and the sewer building, the new sewer building. That was issued in 2010. It matures in 2031. So, you know, there'll be some overlap, but then some of the bonds will start maturing. There's another bond that was issued in 2011 for road sewer system and also for the sewer building. That was 1.8 million and that matures in 2032. So we'll stretch them out. So, you know, it'll be easier down the road as obviously as these mature.
Well, I think that this informational session where the residents will have a sense of what this is gonna cost, excuse me, what it's gonna cost them individually in terms of the increased taxes. How does Thursday, January 9th sound to everybody as a special board meeting, since we have everybody here?
Because our next meeting is the 15th, right?
Our next meeting is the 15th, and I'd like to do it before the next meeting. So if we could pick a date and everyone's aware, and we'll put out the appropriate notices about the special board meeting and the subject matter, which will be strictly The bond. Does that work? Thursday, the 9th, 7 o'clock?
I don't know my
Okay.
calendar's in flux, but put it in.
Okay, so tentatively, we'll meet again to discuss in greater detail with a representative from Unistat.
Yes.
At least on Zoom, if
Mhm.
not in person, what this bonding process will involve on the 9th. Thank you for that.
Tom, do you have anything else I should?
The only thing I'd say is, obviously these projects, timing them out is gonna be pretty important to the whole scheme of things, it's not like writing a single bond amount in $6 million and carrying the interest. The bond anticipation notes allow us to operate in the interest only, from year to year. And then we can gradually incrementally increase the bond indebtedness until we know exactly what the numbers are, because obviously these numbers are estimates. Construction numbers come in, the final numbers may vary. So not knowing that factor gives us a little bit of leeway. I think definitely is Unistat fellow agrees, the way to anticipate our needs best.
Okay.
Do you have any
And we-
idea how competitive the rates are? Because if we're paying 600 for 7.3
Yeah, the
million,
rates,
it's
well, the rates right now,
8%.
Paul, as you know, are higher than they were, but they are settling down. The last one we saw, what was it, 3.8, 3.9?
Yeah.
We're a double A rated community, so we've got good credit to lean on there. But it's gonna be somewhere in that, I would imagine. The rates
But
are-
Paul, I think that's 600. I'm guessing that includes installment payments as well.
Yes.
It's not just interest. So you can't calculate an interest rate on that.
Good point.
I can back out how much installment that there is.
Okay. it's fine.
Okay, all right.
But when you say, how much tax increases there will be, the general fund is only 540,000. And we've got reserves that have been building up over the years that we now invest in night class. So the impact on the general fund projects isn't gonna be, too high. And we also have reserves that have been building up because quarterly we pay capital improvement fees for water, we separately pay capital improvement fees for sewer. So those funds have been building up as, in anticipation.
Yeah, I understand we have $1 million or more in the water fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, we'll discuss this in greater detail at the meeting on the 9th. Hopefully everyone can make it, and any questions people have, hopefully we'll be able to answer all of them. The next item on the agenda is being tabled. It was the Security Committee report. Trustee Turner was ready to make a report, but obviously he's not here for reasons that we just mentioned. So with that being said, we've completed all the reports, and I'll make a motion with respect to the reports. Be it resolved that the board add all written reports to the permanent record. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous 4-0. Okay. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the last general meeting, November 20th. Anybody have any additions or deletions or comments with respect to the November 20th minutes? No. Seeing none, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes from the November 20th, 2024 regular meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now with respect to old business, we had discussed last month the Village Boat Club license agreement, and the one issue that came up was the issue of the moorings. I was in discussion with the president of the club as well as Mr. Santiani, who may be the vice president of the club, and they've agreed that the placement of the moorings will be subject to the lakes manager. However, they point out, interestingly enough, that the code actually provides that the Board of Trustees shall have authority with respect to the moorings. So that being statutory, they have no problem adding the wording the lakes managed, subject to the Board of Trustees approval as per statute, and the lakes manager as per the agreement. So that was the only item that was outstanding with respect to the agreement. So with those terms in place, I would move that the Board of Trustees authorize the mayor to enter into to sign the Village Boat Club license agreement for 1 year for 2025. Do I have a second?
Well, second, but.
Okay, any
discussion.
discussion?
Didn't we discuss asking the boat club to show where these moorings were gonna be?
Yeah, at this point in time, they don't have any intention of placing the moorings. So they're not really in a position to tell us where they will be. If they should get sailboats and they want to put moorings, it would have to come before the Board of Trustees and the lake manager. So I think we're protected to that extent.
So the process is the lake manager will suggest where they should go and then we will.
Well, the lakes
approve
manager will
that?
have a discussion, obviously,
Right.
with the board, with the
Right,
village
okay.
boat club, and then it has to come to the board
Okay.
for the board's approval.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
so that would be the process.
okay.
Okay, so with that being said, again, all in favor of authorizing me to sign the Village Boat Club license agreement for 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, okay, passed 4-0.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, was it trustee Brooke or deputy mayor?
I think it was the
Lindsay.
deputy mayor. Deputy
Okay,
mayor.
thank
Okay.
you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the local law number 2 of 2024 fences. I had asked the chairman of the planning board to attend so that he could give a final explanation of the law and the purpose of the law. He told me he was going to be a little late, so we'll pass on this until he comes on the Zoom call, and then we'll give him the floor. We'll move on to the next item. So we'll get back to the fence law. Under new business, scheduling a public hearing on the 25-mile-an-hour village speed limit. As I mentioned to Mr. McFadden, a traffic study was done. It was published in October. The traffic engineer recommends a reduction in the speed limit from 30 miles an hour village-wide to 25 miles an hour village-wide. That requires a public hearing, and I would make a motion that we schedule a public hearing on the amendment of the speed law from 30 to 25 miles an hour, and we schedule it for the January meeting. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by the deputy mayor. Any discussion on scheduling a public hearing on reduction of the speed limit from 30 to 25 miles an hour? No discussion. All in favor of holding the public hearing at the January meeting, please say aye.
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 Passes unanimously 4-0. Okay. Thank you. Item B is the change of the foil policy. As explained in response to Mr. McFadden's question, this is a state mandated change, as confirmed by our village attorney. I have a copy of the policy if any members of the board would like to review it. Essentially, it appears to be that if any FOIL request is made with respect to the disciplinary records of any employee, that employee would have to be notified that the request was being made. I'm not sure what the present law is, whether that notification was required. Jared, do you have any other insight into this change of state law that we have to pass tonight?
No, that the law was passed in September. All local municipalities will have to modify their FOIL policies to abide by this new law, and it's exactly as you described, Mayor. It just allows for notification to any affected employee with respect to FOILs being made with respect to their disciplinary records.
Okay. All right. That being said, I would move that it be resolved that we accept the amended village FOIL policy pursuant to state statute. And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Again, that passes 4-0. The next item is the capital planning committee bond issue. We're going to table that until January, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, we'll have the public meeting January 9th. We just discussed that.
Yep.
And then on the 15th,
Okay.
kind of early, so I'm hoping that the bond council has to.
Okay. I mean, if it doesn't happen on the 15th, we can
Yeah.
always schedule it for an intermediate, a special
Yeah.
meeting or the February
Okay.
meeting. Okay.
Assuming that the bond council is prepared.
Okay. Next item is the Weewa Park Playground proposal. And we have with us the chairman of the Weewa Park Committee.
I also noticed that Jay joined if you.
Yeah,
want
he
to
is.
this first.
Oh, okay.
So whatever you.
All right. Well, why don't we do your presentation. We have it on the screen. Is everybody able to see Matt's presentation on the screen? Everybody who's online? Could somebody answer? Trustee Sherrick?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, great. All right, Matt, the floor is yours.
So this visual is just kind of a rendering of what we are planning, so we can go through it in a minute, but basically the WeWalk committee, really essentially since we got started under the kind of the new management, we have been working on a playground concept. The first couple seasons, we were focused on some other ancillary physical improvements and some changes to the management of the club. And now it's been made clear by, Tuxedo residents, the members, everybody at the WeWa that a new playground is needed. It's surprising, but this is the only playground in Tuxedo Park open year round for kids. So the state that it's in now, it's pretty sad. So we're very excited to get a new one going. We spoke to probably about 10 playground manufacturers, equipment manufacturers. The one we are recommending is Columbia Cascade. It's the same one that the club used 20 years ago when they built that mostly wooden playground at the pool. And that's 20 years old and it's done pretty well. I don't think there's any meaningful repairs that are needed. It's mostly similar to what the club picked. We went with something that's mostly timber based, a lot of natural materials. We have some custom colors to put any bright plastic, yellow, or anything that would fit into the kind of natural aesthetic that we have in Tuxedo. And I can get into the cost in a minute, but maybe John, if we could flip through so we can kind of show what the current thinking is. So this is an aerial of what is essentially the existing playground footprint with a little bit of an addition down the slope on the back. So we have this natural slope down 8 to 10 feet. So we figured we could use that for 2 slides going down. That's actually a lot more safer for kids because if they fall off, they're right on the ground instead of what we have today, which is you go up 8 feet and then kids are up there and then they slide down. So you get the same impact for the children without the safety concern. You can see we'll probably tweak some of the orientation a little bit. This is just a rendering we did, but there's this new 3-bay swing set, 4 adult / older kid swing and 2 infant toddler swings on the right. And then the kind of cornerstone of the design is this large play set structure on the right-hand side here, John.
This here,
The
number 1.
on the right-hand side of the screen.
Oh,
These
this
aren't
one.
the colors we selected. That's kind of the stock image, but it's a combination for ages 0 to 12. So on one side of the playset is more of the higher equipment, longer slides, twirling slides, some climbing elements. And then on the right side is more of the smaller children play component. So these things get very expensive very quickly. So we tried to have only a few components that could address, the needs for a bunch of different ages that we have at the WeWa. So if we go to the next one. Oh,
Oops, sorry.
yeah, maybe we'll do this. This is a good visual. So maybe one more, John.
Before,
One more next.
Oh. All right.
Sorry, I should have controlled it. Yeah, here we go. So you can kind of see the WeWa is behind. These aren't the exact trees that are there. The plan doesn't require removing any trees. There will be some like poison ivy and other invasive removal down the slope where the embankment slides would go. And then adding some sand on the lower end of that. We are going to reuse the existing seesaw and those 2 rocking animal elements that we have. The kids seem to love them, even though I think they're probably 50 years old. So we're going to reuse those. And we can send it around so people can comment. I did solicit probably about 30 or 40 families that I know with young kids feedback, and that's been taken into consideration when we developed this. But yeah, so we tried to take everyone's thoughts into concern, keep the footprint as similar as it is to today, improve safety, improve the quality of equipment. We would look to incorporate some log benches that won't be in the prices that that I say, because I think, especially after some of those storms, there's a lot of hardwood on the ground in Tuxedo that we can probably get folks to craft into log benches for us. So those are the visuals. Maybe John, if you can click to the last one, that's the other perspective, looking from the lake. So you can see, it's hard to see on this screen because it's cut off a little bit, but you can see you use the natural slope to get the slides, and then you have a couple of climbing elements back up to where the sand is. So that's that, and then on to the cost. So the cost of the equipment from Columbia Cascade, including transport to the WeWa, is roughly $115,000. We did not price out a third-party installation because when speaking to Columbia Cascade, they said oftentimes with municipalities, it's very budget focused. So the local, in our case, DPW and kind of parent volunteers put together a program to do the installation and some of the site works. We might need a landscape company or someone to do some of the site work prep if the DPW can't do it. But I think we would ask for, you know, some dedicated DPW time if we can move this forward to keep the costs as low as possible for the install component of this. But it is, as far as I understand, these things are packaged and the instructions are such that it's supposed to be done by, you know, municipal staff and parent volunteers, and that's kind of how a lot of these things get built. Obviously, there are professional installers available kind of all over the place, but that would increase the total cost. And then I think there would be a couple of $1,000s, maybe $5,000 in new sand and some of the landscape work down that hillside to remove some of the poison ivy and, you know, make it even and stuff like that. So the total cost, assuming we don't have a third party installer, is about $120,000 to $125,000. The good news is, and subject to Elizabeth and my final reconciliation of the bank account at the end of the year, we do have, I think it should be about 85,000 in the bank account. Let's say 80,000. So we would, what the committee members and I have talked about is we would try to raise 65,000 in private donations, use about 55,000 from the WeWa bank account. So we keep a buffer in there for operations next year. And then that would really leave us with not much extra required from the village. Now, separately, if the village wanted to, I don't know if you have any budget room now or in the future, but if the village wanted to contribute, then that would just de-risk the private fundraiser and the amount that we need to raise from, you know, residents and WeWa members to get this done. And then just in terms of assuming, well, one question I have for you is process from here, but assuming we get through whatever that process is and we want to move forward with this, it's from the time of ordering the equipment, and the prices could change up until the time of ordering, but from the time of ordering the equipment to delivery is about 60 days. And then I imagine there'll be, you know, 1 to 2 weeks of install. If we're not focused, if we don't have a professional installer doing it in 1 or 2 days, I think it'll be a bit of a protracted period, but then there's an install period from there. So if the trustees would like this to be kind of in service for the next WeWa season, you kind of backtrack from May, 60 days plus another 2 weeks, and gives you a rough timing of when we should try to close the fundraising period and get this going.
Questions from the trustees for Matt?
Well, I guess there are two questions, right? The first is the fundraising effort, I assume, has all the bells and whistles, naming, all that stuff. So,
Not done any of that yet. We can.
right, we can, but I mean, I think we'll do that.
Well, let me just interrupt for a sec. Jared, are you on?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, are there statutory rules with respect to a municipality fundraising for a project such as this?
So there are, Jared explained them to me already.
Yes.
Yes.
The village cannot fundraise and the WeWa committee cannot fundraise.
Mhm.
So what we would be doing is a group of residents, which we are,
Mhm.
not WeWa related, not related to the operation of the beach club. A group of residents would host a fundraiser to try to raise the money and then ask the village if they would accept the donation to that. So that, I think, Jared, is how.
That's
it would
correct. That's correct. It would be a gift to the village. The village would accept the gift, much like any other kind of gift. The village can use it towards the improvement of the playground facilities.
Okay, as long as we all understand the process. Okay,
No footfalls on that part.
all right.
Yeah, there's a second dimension. I mean, as we do that legally, it doesn't cost us anything and we all benefit from it. The second benefit is that if the village were to negotiate with the beach club, that every village resident could be a member of the Weewa Beach Club by virtue of their taxes. The village could make supporting payment. Can you dimensionalize what the cost would be of us providing that benefit to our residents?
So if the village wanted to cover the operation of the Weewa, and we stick to the, I think, light approval of a beach manager for next season, the rough operating cost would be around 60,000 for the full season of operating the Weewa. Get the lifeguards, the checker, the beach manager, and then some ancillary stuff like utilities and some event stuff. I don't have I'll have to get the final number from Elizabeth, but that's the big round number I have in my mind. So 60,000.
So we basically have two issues. One issue is, speaking personally, I'm supportive of improving the Weewa. It's privately funded, as we did with the police gate. It'll be a separate group that does it. The village, I think in general, would be appreciative of the gift.
The village want to contribute? Open to that.
And the village, I'm not sure what the rules are, that requires Jared. But the other thing is a entirely separate issue for us as trustees to consider on whether it's a matter of policy, because the Weewa Beach Club is a community resource. More and more kids coming into the community, right? Whether in fact we want to establish a principle by which every member, every village taxpayer is automatically a member of the Weewa Beach Club, and that we should discuss separately.
So if the right number is 60,000, there's round number, and we have 330 houses, it's like $180 a house.
Yeah, order of magnitude for us to think about.
That's actually pretty similar to the existing. So actually, it's cheaper. It's much cheaper than the existing.
And that would not include vacant properties.
I have.
That's
Yeah.
houses. I mean, there is a lot of vacant land here which are owned by people. But they would not automatically be entitled to membership at the beach. They are taxpayers, theoretically, the taxpayers. So we'd have to discuss that. That's not for tonight. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll certainly continue the discussion because you've done a great job. First of all, you did a great job with the Weewa this past summer. You and your committee are to be congratulated for running a great beach and a great park. And putting this proposal together was also extraordinary. I'm sure it took a lot of time and effort, and you and your committee deserve a lot of kudos for that. So you've given us the proposal. We'll talk about it, and we'll get back to you ASAP because obviously you want to get this started, and it would be great if it could be set up for next spring and summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Okay, so everyone's got one of these?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now we'll move on, to approve the renewal of PERMA third-party administration services. Elizabeth, do you know what that is?
It's just our PERMA workers' comp contract that we have with them. They do that for us every year. This is,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Same reason as last year.
All right. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the renewal of PERMA third-party administration services at the same rates with respect to the workers' compensation contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
second by trustee Brooke, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, okay. Next item is Tuxedo Joint Fire District appointment. Approval of Todd Darling, reappointment for a 5-year term beginning January 1st of 2025. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees authorize the Tuxedo Joint Fire District to reappoint Commissioner Todd Darling, a village resident, to a 5-year term beginning January 1st, 2025. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Deputy Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Now, that's passes unanimously. Now, another item we have to discuss, and we can certainly discuss it in public, an added item to the agenda, is the donation of land by a village resident. You're all familiar with that. The resident wishes to remain anonymous for the purpose of the public discussion. And we approved and essentially accepted that donation at a prior meeting. And we are intending to close on title on December 23rd, but we need a resolution with respect to the closing costs. And I've prepared a resolution, which I will read. As follows: be it resolved that the Village of Tuxedo Park accepts with gratitude the donation of 4+ acres of vacant land known as parcel section 214, block 1, lot 16.1 on the tax map of the town of Tuxedo, and consideration of the same hereby agrees to absorb all reasonable and necessary costs in relation to the acceptance of the donation, not including the donor's attorney's fees. Do I have a second?
I'll second,
Any discussion on this?
not including that.
Yeah, we're not paying for the
Oh, yeah,
donor's
yeah, okay.
attorney's fees.
So do we have an estimate or no? Just whatever
At
it is.
this point, there's been a
Doesn't
lot of email back and forth, as John can attest to, probably 24 emails, and we don't have a precise number, but we want to get the closing done, and we need to authorize the village to absorb these costs. And we're getting 4 acres at the south gate. It's a great contribution to the village and to vacant land, and it's the least we can do for the donor.
Okay.
Any comment, Jared, on the wording of the proposal?
No, Mayor, I think your proposed resolution is perfect. I'm sorry that we don't have those fixed costs yet, but I think your reference to reasonable, customary, necessary costs is sufficient for this purpose.
Okay. All right. So I move that resolution. And I think I seconded by the deputy mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So that resolution passes 4-0. All right. Next, another item we have on the agenda is, which is added, is not here, is the Sterling Carting garbage contract extension. We have to discuss that in executive session. It involves some negotiations. We had talked about it at the last meeting, and I need to report to the trustees in executive session. So we'll come out of executive session. We'll have a resolution on the extension of the carting contract. So next item is Jay. Are you here? Yep.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jay.
I am.
Okay.
Sorry I'm late.
No problem, Jay. Going back to the fence law, we had a public hearing in October, and now the item is on the agenda for adoption. And for the last time, you've been great. You drafted it. You explained it multiple times. Some time has passed since we've had a discussion about it. So would you be so kind as to explain again the purpose, the legislative purpose of this, and essentially what the statute, the proposed law says? And all the trustees have received the copy either in person on their desk, or Josh, you received it by email from me, right?
I did, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so this is, sorry, as usual, I didn't realize I was going to be speaking. the zoning has a very short section on fences that defines some very short setbacks from property lines and the height of fences, and is silent on any other matters. Some years ago, the village established chapter 49, which is still in the books, which basically was designed to allow people to put up deer fences. That is a fence about 8 feet high, made out of black plastic with, posts. And with a shortened, in fact, no need to get a permit of any type to do that, provided you met the rules. And this was done at the time because there was a deer problem, which the board hoped would be solved in a few years. And because of that, they put a sunset provision on the law, which is unique to any other statute in the village, which expired some 10 or 15 years ago, but nobody noticed. And one of the purposes of this law originally was to prevent too much of the carving up in the village into fenced off individual lots, similar to what you see if you drive around the Hamptons. So it was decided by the board that it would be good to revisit this issue, and I sort of got drafted into doing that. And we've put together, after a number of discussions and false starts, a version of this law that does two things. It redefines what deer fences are and provides for a abbreviated permitting process. Basically, it will state what the requirements for that fence are in terms of material, which will be put together by the Board of Architectural Review, as is in their purview. And provided that a resident meets those requirements, they can put up a deer fence with a very abbreviated permitting process. Every other fence still falls under all of the rules and requirements for review as currently stand. The law also increases the setback distance for any fence on the front yard of a property. And the front yard is defined by road frontage. And that is to, again, minimize the visual impacts of fences in general, which was something that the board indicated they wanted to include in this law. And that's where we are. So let me know if I missed something.
Great. Thank you, Jay. All right, well, let me put the resolution forward and we can discuss it. Be it resolved that proposed local law 2 of the year 2024, entitled Chapter 49 Fences, which has previously been subject to a public hearing, has been reviewed by the Orange County Planning Department and found to be a local decision, be adopted by the Board of Trustees. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, folks.
Jay, can you just remind me, is there a grandfathering provision in there? So or will this apply to all structures that are currently in place as well?
The chapter doesn't speak to this, and I'm going to use my line number 3, which says I'm an engineer, not a lawyer. So I invite counsel to opine on this. But it's my understanding that any existing fence remains existing and is therefore grandfathered. The question of what happens to fences that are currently in the review and approval process, I can't speak to. So I think the general rules about grandfathering things apply to this. Nothing specific is mentioned in this chapter.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for Jay or any discussion?
So the deer fence sunset, right? Whatever the provisions were. So how does that work with grandfathering it? If didn't it sunset like 10 years ago, as you said?
Well,
And
if
so-
If it's sunset,
It's
if it's
sunset and,
sunset, they have the right to exist. The law is
Okay.
what sunsets, not the fence.
okay, right, the law, and then there's just hasn't been any deer fences put up since
It's a
then.
Pre-existing deer fence
And then,
prior to the
Okay,
passage
yeah.
of the law.
all right, as long as
It's what it
no
is.
new
That in
one since
fact-
then.
I think that in fact, everybody, in general, pretty much everybody thought this was still in effect.
Right.
And the provisions that deal with the height of fences and materials, everybody jumped to that part of the chapter and sort of built accordingly. And the sort of preamble part, which has the sunset, nobody noticed until it came up in a particular case regarding fences. So, I mean, I think that sort of everyone's been sort of
This is my
following the
suggestion.
rules as they best understood it up till now, so.
The resolutions on the
Thanks.
table, we'll address it after executive session to get a legal opinion from our village attorney.
Okay,
Okay, is that acceptable, Jared? We'll talk about the grandfathering issue in executive session, and then I'll remake the motion to adopt the local law.
That's fine. To the extent that the board has a legal question, certainly we can discuss that in executive session.
I think there are obviously some questions about grandfathering and whether it applies to this law. Okay, so we'll get back to this one after executive session. All right, thank you, Jay. Moving on to audit of claims. Anything, Elizabeth?
Yes, audit, the bills in the amount of $416,932.06 for the general fund. We have bills in the amount of $8,533.04 for the sewer fund. And bills in the amount of $29,743.13 for the water fund. And the only thing of note is that this month, these bills include two bills that were paid to retirement, which totaled over $258,000. So that's why the general fund bills are high, just because of those bills.
how often are payments to retirement fund made?
Once a year.
Just
This,
one?
this
Okay.
one is made once a year. Every
Okay.
payroll, we forward money that has been deducted from people's paychecks. But this one bill is just a yearly thing.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for Elizabeth on audit of claims? All right, budget transfers, Elizabeth?
There are no budget transfers to report, but I did just want to mention that if you look at the water fund, if you look at the general fund, the line for the retirement looks like it's overdrawn. It really isn't. It's just that when I made the payment, I took it entirely out of the water fund, but actually I keep saying water fund. I paid for it entirely out of the general fund, but actually a piece is supposed to come out of the water fund and a piece is supposed to come out of the sewer fund. So what I will do is I will reimburse the general fund from those two funds, and then that fund will be, that line item will be brought up to balance. I hope that made sense.
Any other questions for Elizabeth on budget transfers from the board? Okay. All right, that being said, any closing comments from the trustees at this point? None, hearing none. Public comment. Anyone in the public wishes to speak? First in the room. Any members of the public? We have some members who have been good enough to remain. No?
Just one item. I think we should just note for the record that we did expend the ARPA money
Okay,
by
yeah.
December 31st. Approximately 16,000 for a new heating system at the South Gatehouse, approximately 32,000 in repairs at the water plant, and approximately 12 to 15,000 of expenses that'll come out of the general fund, mostly related to road repairs. So we will satisfy that $61,000 or $62,000.
Did I miss your report?
That's okay. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Is there anything else you'd like to add while we're in public session, Mr. Ledwith? I apologize.
Well, I think, Michelle, did you touch on, we did use our allocation regarding LED streetlights.
Yes.
We communicated with O&R this morning, and I'll get confirmation probably tomorrow. We're gonna install 4 LED lights at random locations in the village.
For free.
For free. They will slightly lower our electric bill, not as much as you would expect going LED, but they will slightly lower the electric bill. And the new heating system at the Southgate House has been installed and operating fine.
So we had to use that ARPA money by the end of the year, and we were successful thanks to John and the deputy mayor who found things to spend it on. Thank you so much. Otherwise it would poof, disappear. We didn't want that to happen. Okay. All right. Members of the public, Mr. Reichgott.
Jay Reichgott, 121 Laurel Road. Let me start by saying none of the things I'm about to say should be taken as any way disparaging the WeWa Beach Club and the WeWa Committee. They're doing a fabulous job.
Thanks, Jay.
I think it's important to remember that the beach club and the committee really, I mean, their main focus is running the swimming beach, which is located in the Weewa Park or Pigeon Point or whatever the name of that property is, which is the village's only active recreation area. Any playground is going to be part of that village amenity. It's not really going to be, or should it be, the beach club's playground. It's the village's playground located at the Weewa Park adjacent to the beach club. And therefore, while private fundraising is going to be important and is great, and accepting those monies as a donation is a fabulous thing, and, you know, send me a line so I can sign up for my piece of that. It is absolutely, in my opinion, something the village should be helping and leading with to improve this village facility. That's all.
So
And also- go ahead, Mayor, sorry.
Oh, no, you first, Josh. Go ahead.
And it raises another question, Jay, which is a separate issue. Now that you framed it that way, which is, should the beach club be using its funds to build that facility? I don't have a perspective, by the way. It's a question, just given your reframing of the situation. I guess that's up to the beach club.
Matt has a response.
They're not really our funds. It's really the village funds.
Fair,
So-
okay.
In the past, it was a private club's funds that belonged to the members. Now it's just the village's money held separately for things at the park, at least how I view it. I don't know if you all agree.
Did you get that, Josh? Were you able to hear that?
No, I did, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I guess, Jay, your point is that the village should be contributing from the general fund in addition to fundraising in order to improve the park, because that's essentially what it is. It's an improvement of the park, irrelevant of whether the beach club is operating or not operating.
But if you take
Essentially,
what,
yes. I mean, that's my general, I think I think it's a larger issue. And again, I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but there is quite often a conflation between the beach and swimming club, which is a certain group of people who have, you know, because they pay, they can swim, etc. And the Weewa Park itself, which is an amenity open to every village member, whether or not they're a member of the beach club, right? During swimming season, the beach club members have some additional privileges that they currently pay for. It has been my opinion. I tend to agree with trustee Brooke, that every member of the every resident of the village should be automatically a member of the beach club. That's a different discussion. So that's all. No one, we're gonna put this playground in. Anybody who's a village resident or a guest of a village resident is gonna be able to go out there and play, not just members of the beach club.
It certainly is a given, yes.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good point.
Anybody else have public comment on the Zoom call? All right, I make a motion that we move into executive session to receive legal opinions from our village attorney to discuss contract negotiations with respect to Sterling Karting as well as other matters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. We'll be back after executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Great job.
Was there a sign page? A
There
sign?
was a, here, can I see? There was a
Was there-
page.
I didn't
In
see it there.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
Hold a second, just-
yeah.
John, when we go into executive session, you may want to stop recording.
Yes, I'm just trying to, I think I have everybody off. Elizabeth, Jared. Okay, and where do I
I think
stop?
There were two rubber bands, one with.
Okay, let's skip. Okay,
Recording in progress, we're good. And I think everybody is in, yes.
okay, very good. All right, so we have two resolutions coming out of executive session. The first one involves the rental of the South Gatehouse. Be it resolved that that Ryan Burns, a DPW employee, is offered a lease/permit to occupy the South Gatehouse. And that occupancy will be at a rent of $1,250 per month. It will be a term for 1 year, subject to renewal and possible increase at that point in time. It is also part of the resolution that Mr. Burns, as the tenant or the permittee, will be responsible for electricity as well as propane service at the house. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Josh?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Second resolution, with respect to Sterling Karting, the final extension through November of 2025 is hereby authorized upon the condition that the monthly price to which the village pays Sterling Karting will be increased by the amount of $1,500 per month over and above the initial contract price, noting that there has been no increase in the contract price since the contract was signed in 2019. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Fence law.
What?
Fence law.
Oh, and yes, 3 items. The last item is defense law. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts as local law 2 of the year 2024, the proposed chapter 49 fence law. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor of adopting chapter 49 as proposed, the fence law, please state aye.
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 Aye. Carried unanimously. Thank you all very much. Last motion, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adjourn the
Excuse
public
me, Mayor?
meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize, what about absorbing the cost of the closing costs of the land donation?
We did that already.
Oh, we did. Okay, I'm just sorry. I
Yeah,
wasn't
we-
sure.
that's
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, we did that. We did that in public. Yeah, okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adjourn the public meeting at 8:51 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Happy
you
and
guys
healthy
on-
holidays to you and your family.
To everybody.
To
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Thanks.
See you all
Sorry
in
about that.
2025.
We got mixed up.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.